examining all morning about what happens now from a governmental point of view, who makes decisions. Morning.
Morning. Yes, well, the work of government does continue, and the man who will be taking charge of it on a day-to-day basis at the moment is Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary. He also holds this post of First Secretary of State, and Boris Johnson has now asked him to step in and deputise for him where needed. Now, this does mark a change. Dominic Raab has been very clear in interviews that it is still Boris Johnson's plans, Boris Johnson's instructions that he and other senior ministers, the cabinet, will be carrying out, though. And one of the first things he'll do actually is to chair the daily coronavirus government meeting in a couple of hours' time. But what this does is it does mark a change, because throughout that time when Boris Johnson was self-isolating here in Downing Street, right up until yesterday, we were being told he was still leading the government response, that he was seeing documents, he was talking to ministers, to officials. So this is a change from that. Now, his cabinet colleague, Michael Gove, was asked, well, did that mean he'd just maybe pushed it too far?
His own doctors have given him clear advice at every stage, which the Prime Minister has followed. And the Prime Minister loves this country. He wants to do his very, very best for us. And that's one of the reasons why he's made sure that he's been involved in the decision-making and he's chaired meetings. But he's also had a stripped-back diary, and that's reflected the medical advice that the Prime Minister has had.
Asking somebody else to deputise for him is a big move for any Prime Minister, and not one that any would really want to make unless there was no other option. Of course, the other thing in the political world this morning is it's not just about dealing with what happens when your head of government is sort of taken out of circulation, but for a lot of people there's real concern for someone who is a colleague, for some a friend. So we've heard sort of tweets and messages of support from across the political spectrum this morning. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, saying it was terribly sad news. We've also had some tweets of support from some of the previous occupants of this place. Theresa May saying that her thoughts and prayers were with Boris Johnson and his family, and it shows that the virus just doesn't discriminate. There's also been messages of support from David Cameron and others, including Gordon and Sarah Brown.
Helen, thank you very much. Thank you.
A heart surgeon at Wales's largest hospital has died from coronavirus. Jitendra Rathood was an associate specialist in cardiothoracic surgery at University Hospital of Wales. Earlier, the Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford said he was a great loss.
Desperately sad news. A very senior and very highly regarded doctor here in Wales. We've other clinicians who've been on the front line who are suffering from coronavirus. And it just tells us, doesn't it? You know, this virus is no respecter of persons or place, which is why it is so important we all do absolutely everything we can to protect one another from its impact.
And 439 people died in hospital from the effects of coronavirus on Monday. Overall, there are 51,608 confirmed cases in the UK. The total number of people who died from the virus has actually reached 5,373. That number doesn't actually account for people who died in the community or in a care home.
People who volunteer to support the NHS during the outbreak will begin reporting for duty today. They will deliver food and medicines, drive patients to appointments and phone the isolated. 750,000 people signed up to the government's call for volunteers when the scheme launched, 3 times the original target.
Now something a little bit, I don't know, light-hearted, isn't
Yes.
it? You might remember last week, you probably will remember if you watched it, we spoke to the Marsh family, who went viral for their hilarious self-isolation rendition of their Les Miserables song, One Day More. I tried to say it without singing, but it's quite difficult.
It's been very hard, isn't it? You'll be pleased to hear they are back with a brand new song, which will sadly be their last. We'll be speaking to them a little bit later on the programme, but here is a little taster.
Do you hear the people sing, tagging the songs against the pain? It is the music of the people that can make us one again. When the beating of our hearts echoes the beating of our drums, there is a world we can reach out when tomorrow comes.
About when tomorrow comes, I have to apologise. I think I might have said it was March. Wishful thinking, I think, don't you, Dan?
It is hard to know what day it is, what time it is, but it's definitely April.
It's confused me by sitting so far away from you. Anyway, apologies, everybody. Don't worry, we are still in April.
And it is 11 minutes past 8, and last time I checked, it was Tuesday morning. Thank you for being with us this morning. Now, Boris Johnson, as we've heard from Michael Gove this morning, is known for his energy and enthusiasm, and been described by Donald Trump as strong, resolute, and someone who doesn't give up.
Well, this is a message that's been echoed in messages of support, which has been shared across the political divide. Let's speak now to Boris Johnson's former Chief of Staff when he was London Mayor, Gita Harry. Morning to you. Thanks so much for joining us. And there have been